Hi, this is Keith Overholt, and coming to you with another Stories of Hope podcast. Really excited today because we have a son and mother that have come, and we're doing a podcast. We've not done this before, so you guys have to bear with us. We've not had two guests at one time, but we thought it'd be good to share your combined story of how God changes lives, but also how it's a hope story for others out there. Just introduce yourself real quick. We'll start with you and tell the people out there who you are.
My name is Seth Stapler. I'm 20 years old, and this is my mother here.
My name is Whitney, and I'm 42 years old.
So, Seth and Whitney, we asked you guys to come together. And usually how we do this is we talk a little bit about the history of where we've come from and then how we got here. So I'm going to start with your mom first. So Whitney, tell us a little bit about where you grew up and a little bit about your life as a youngster and then how you ended up to come into the mission.
I grew up in Hazel Green, Alabama with my mother, my grandparents, and my brother. And aunts and uncles and cousins, and I had a really good life. I grew up in church, and I had an abusive dad, and that's where things weren't so good.
How old were you when some of that abuse started?
I was too young to remember when my mother moved away from him. But my grandparents had land in Hazel Green, and my mother needed help, and they moved her out there and gave her a piece of property and a trailer, and she started raising me and my brother.
So your childhood was tough because you moved away from father figure, right? And abusive relationship, and but how was your childhood besides that? Did you go to high school in Hazel Green, or?
I went to Hazel Green High School. I went to Hazel Green elementary, middle, and high school.
Okay.
Played sports.
What sports did you play?
I played softball, basketball, and soccer.
Wow, awesome.
And I was in the band, in the choir, did a little theater. My parents always try to keep us involved, and our grandparents in something, in doing something, and I think that was really good.
Yeah.
It helps you feel good inside. I can remember that when I was a child, because like I said, my biological dad, he was very unpredictable. And if I was, at a skate party somewhere, a young child, he would come take me from the skate party with my skates still on, or he would bust in my mom's door and take me while I'm still playing a game on a Nintendo with a remote control still in my hand when I get in the car.
Wow.
It was just abusive to my mom when she'd come get us from that.
Yeah.
She would come to get us, and then there'd just be abuse on her. And so being involved in sports and having the close with my grandparents, my mom, and my aunts and my cousins around was real supportive, and being a part of something, helped build my confidence as a child and helped me to have some normal.
Yeah. I played sports too, so teammates kind of become your family, right? Mm-hmm. And so was that a way for you to get away from some of that as well?
It was. But they also knew, because this is something that would happen while we were there. We played ball together, but we also had birthday parties together, and played together outside. And so it wasn't anything that was private, so.
Yeah. And small towns people know anyway, right?
They do.
Yeah. So after high school, and did you graduate from school?
Barely,
yeah.
But I did.
So what happened after high school? What was your path?
Well, so I started, before I graduated, doing drugs, and I got depressed and started rebelling before I graduated. When I graduated, that road wasn't any different.
Yeah.
And
so why did you go down the path of drugs at first? What was it about the drugs?
Well, what actually happened was, I think it was she won't do that. That's not in her to do. So, I did. And but I remember the time where I rebelled And when I say rebelled, I mean went against the Holy Spirit. I wasn't graduated yet. I was probably 17, and my mom took me to a therapist. And so we all search for something, and I know now that is Jesus Christ, that's God, But I didn't know that then. But I did know that I in my spirit who I was talking to, and I do know that the Holy Spirit told me, don't do that. And I said, just give me the medicine. I kind of, if I can't get, what I want, I don't want to talk to a stranger. I want to, talk to my mom. But my mom, wasn't a failure or anything like that. I was just an angry person. And, I just wanted to be heard. I didn't know how to get that. And I was seeking something that my mom couldn't even provide for me. There's something that only God can give you. And we can't get that in anything other than God. And so I ended up, saying, I don't want to talk to this person. Just give me the prescriptions. And I got on them and kept trying medication. And next thing you know, I'm on narcotics. And it started with rebellion in my heart.
About how old were you when it got into narcotics?
21.
21? Yeah. So pretty young. So what does the path look like then? What's going on in your life once you start getting into narcotics? Because I know that's not going to be so great, right?
Well, I got into narcotics a little bit before that, street narcotics. Then I met Seth's dad, and I got pregnant with him. And I quit that, for a while. But if you don't mend the problem that you have, it's always going to show back up. If you don't deal with it, it's going to show back up. And after I had Seth, he was about 1.5 years, it eventually showed back up. And I started using.
But you quit for the time when you were pregnant and while you were raising them for the first 1.5 years, okay? And then was there something that happened in your life during that time that you were like, I'm being sucked back into it?
Well, it did. So me and his dad had a little rough, we were just trying to make it. We were just two kids trying to make it too. And so we both didn't have very, we both had backgrounds that were a little rocky, We both had at least a good parent that was there for us, so we struggled a little bit. So then when we had our hard times, we struggled. So we really didn't know what to do. And so we fell apart.
And that kind of pushed you back towards the drug scene?
It pushed me before because I didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
And I was sad. Yeah. I didn't know who to talk to. I couldn't make it better.
Yeah. And so about 1.5 years old, you start back into the drugs when Seth's about that age. So talk about that a little bit.
It was reckless. It was crazy. I spiraled out of control. They're finding paraphernalia left and right. I was at my mom's house one day and I just dumped my purse out and was like, here's everything. Begging to my mom, get me some help. But I wouldn't. But it's so scary because at that time, something in you is crying for that help, but something in you is also saying, I'm not going to get it. I'm not going to get the help even if you can get it for me. And it's not a good position. It's not a good place or a place I ever want to be in again. But it was chaotic. I missed my son a whole lot. And so it just felt better to use something because I didn't feel anything at all.
Did you lose Seth during that time?
I did. I lost him. I didn't legally lose him. His dad never took him from me. But as far as being in the house, I wasn't around him. I had to go to my mother's, and then if I could get in a good situation and be, sober, steady enough, which I was I used something all the time, whether it be from the doctor or the street, but as long as I was okay in my mind and sober, he could come, he never kept him from seeing me. But I feel like I did. I feel like I let him down. I feel like I made the best decision I could have because, his father had a home and stability. I didn't have that for myself at the time. And, I think back and do I wish I could have done something different? I I mean, of course, we all want, a fairy tale. We all want
Sure.
no one to have went through any of it, but it is how it happened.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember from that moment, from leaving, that it was in the middle of the night, so leaving with him in his diaper in the middle of the night, because we just couldn't get along, and walking away from that till now. I just have been trying to get him back into my life.
Sure.
And I haven't ever, I'm blessed now. I mean, he's here
Yeah.
with me. It's been a long road.
So he was 1.5 when some of that craziness started. Do you ever have any legal issues or anything happen through those years? Or
I did. I was angry, and went over to his dad's house, once or twice. And his dad was, pretty cool and calm and collective about it. But I could tell he was burning up inside. Like, I could tell God was working on him. But I wasn't there yet, I could tell somehow he had started working in him, and he was doing better, wanting to do better and doing better. I could see it, I'm sorry, I forgot where I was going.
But no, I just asked you, were there any legal issues that happened during the...
So legal-wise, it would just be the one time I went over there and I caused a problem, so the cops had to come. And then there was a time where Matthew had went to the court because I was just out of hand, but there was going to be a problem with, hey, his dad might want to take you to court or something, and that was like a wake-up call to stop Whitney.
Did you ever serve time or anything?
I have served time.
Yeah.
Quite a few times.
Yeah. Well, what was that for?
I've served time for possession of an unlawful medication. I've served time for theft of property. I've served time for trespassing a lot, a whole lot. And I've had some other charges that got thrown out, and I've served from a few hours to a year is the longest I've served in jail.
So let's pull Seth in here, right? So what are your first recollections of your mom that you remember?
It may be sort of sad, but I think I remember that night when the cop car was, I just remember the blue and red lights through the back door.
Yeah.
And that's probably the first memory I can go back and remember like that.
Mm-hmm.
But,
well, real quick, what happened with the blue and red lights? What was going on that night that he might remember?
Fussing. I think I confronted his dad about something, and his dad wasn't happy with me.
So he called the cops on you?
He did.
Yeah. And that's one of the first nights that you remember in your recollection. So talk about your childhood. You lived with your dad for a while, right?
Yeah, I lived with my dad until I graduated high school, but way before then, he had really changed, and he was trying to do better, and he was a really, like, my biggest anchor growing up and going through life, and there's a big detail, like, he wanted me to see my mother. There was never no, like, oh, you're never going to see her, or I don't want you seeing her, I don't know what she's got going on. Every time she wanted to see me, or she knew it was good for me to come over, he never hesitated.
Yeah.
But my father was, like, all I had. And, like, I owe that man everything to this day, because he sacrificed it all to, he wasn't really perfect in the time you was talking about either. That's just what I think. And but he sacrificed a ton to do better.
Yeah. So you're growing up as a young guy, young kid, and did you know your mom was having trouble with the law, or that you wouldn't see her for a little while, or do you have any recollection of that at all when you were younger?
It was kind of more so like oh, when mommy's feeling better, you'll see her.
Yeah.
And when mommy's doing, when
Mm-hmm.
she.
So your
she's
dad even
somewhere.
protected you from that. I mean, he didn't use that as a crutch against your mom somehow.
No, he never brought it up. He never
Wow.
used that as an excuse. He never
Wow.
used it as a hammer.
Hmm.
He hid that,
Yeah.
and that was I respect that too, because that
sure.
easily could have been a way to say,
Yeah.
"Oh, I don't feel like dealing with that. You know how much pain she caused me."
Hmm.
But he had it in his heart to be open like that, and that's what I got respect for.
Yeah.
Because to me, I feel like it's unfair how the drugs had a hold of you like that.
Absolutely.
It was more like a numbing thing than anything.
Hmm.
Because life is hard, but when you can find something that, like, it's just fake good feeling. It's just numbing, but
Yeah. So, as a kid or in teens, how did you feel your relationship with your mom was?
This is all sad and stuff, but it wasn't really there.
Yeah.
Because I might see you like once or twice a year, and that's why right now it's so special. Before I go into all this, I'm just saying right now it's so special to me, but it wasn't really there. So it was like, it wasn't good because I didn't understand. Because I was like, well, why can't mommy just be good all the time? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Why couldn't she have just been there and just been good? Because that was my thoughts. Like,
Yeah.
as I started growing up, I'm like, what's really going on?
Yeah. You and I had a conversation on the bench, right?
Yeah.
A couple months back.
That was
It was really cold, and you
Yeah.
came and visited me. We were doing an event for bringing recognition to homelessness and what that meant. And so I spent 24 hours on a bench, and you were one of the guys that came out and visited. I appreciate you coming to visit me.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, you're a big enough guy to keep me warm for a little while over there.
Yeah.
And but you said a lot on the bench, and it was rough for you with your mom early on, right?
Yeah,
And
very.
you said one of your recollections was that you remembered being at the mission as a young guy.
Yeah, I
right?
do.
Yeah, so talk about that a little bit.
That was probably the first time you was here, but the mission was a very fun place in my brain because I remember, y'all would do fall festivals and
Yep.
different things, and the different events was fun. And I was like, man, they even got a gym here, and you get to live here. That's awesome. But the cool part about the mission was that I got to see my mom. So
Yeah.
the mission wasn't just like this super fun place. Sometimes had bouncy houses and stuff, but it was like, oh, mommy's doing good at this location. So the mission is good. It's a good thing.
How old do you think you were when that first time that you remember that?
I say like 11, 12, 13,
Wow.
right around there. So preteen, barely turned 13.
No, you didn't live here yourself. You would just come to visit, right?
I did not live here.
Yeah.
I was still living with my dad.
Yeah.
So he would just drop me off to visit.
Yeah.
So he was still doing that.
Yeah.
I mean, still. And that was like, 5, 6 years after all that started.
That's a special guy that even if your mom's staying at a rescue mission, that he wants you to have that relationship enough
Yeah.
that he's dropping you off. And how was it that he felt it was safe enough for you to be here too, right?
I can't comment on that part. He definitely had some thoughts on that, but he just trusted that everything would be okay.
Yeah.
And he just had to know that the boy has to see his mom kind of thing. And
Yeah.
I understand that now being grown, that like I told you a second ago, it's a lot of sacrificing.
Yeah.
A lot of feelings and emotions had to be sacrificed for that to happen.
So Whitney, he's coming to visit you when you were here. You came here, let's see, 11, so it would have been, 8, 9 years ago, right?
Yeah.
So that was the first time you were at the rescue mission?
Oh, no. No, sir. The first time I came to the rescue mission was in, let's see, I want to say 2012. Yeah.
2012?
Wow.
Yeah.
2012. It was right before I got pregnant with my second son.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the first time I experienced homelessness.
Mm-hmm.
Carter and Seth have different dads.
Mm-hmm.
So it was Carter's dad that knew about the place. So
And he recommended for you to come here?
we came here.
Yeah.
We came here with
together.
him.
Okay.
And I found out that I was pregnant in 2013. I tried to get into the I was in the Women and Children program well, it would be this building.
Before we built our new one,
Before
yeah.
you built the new one,
Yep.
yes, sir. And Seth
I
came.
prayed for that, by the way. I wanted a little brother, and I prayed for that.
Wow, that's awesome.
And I believe it was a godsend because I had lupus after I got pregnant with him and had him, and I wasn't supposed to have any more kids.
Wow.
And 8 years later, I'm having another kid.
Yeah.
And, Seth said on Christmas when I saw my cousins together, something was void, and he went in the bathroom and he prayed for his little brother. 3 months later, I'm here finding out that I'm pregnant.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I was like, whoa. I was like, that's not my test. I can't have any.
Yeah.
So I do believe that's a miracle.
And that little dude is my best friend, so
Yeah.
shout out Carter.
Yes.
That's awesome. So life didn't really get better that first time, right? And you said you were here multiple times. Talk about that a little bit. How many times do you think you've been to the mission and tried to be in the program or just emergency services?
Maybe 4 or 5.
Yeah.
And something gravitated me here, and I'm sure it's God. He pulls people to himself all the time.
Yeah.
And it's a very scary thing. It's a very comforting thing to know that only God can save us, but that we just have to surrender.
Yeah.
And I apparently wasn't ready to surrender. And I know I can name in my head right now a few things that I wasn't trying to surrender. And so I did succeed in 2018, and I graduated in 2019. That's the time Seth remembers coming. But he did come in 2012. He stayed one night in the Women and Children, and that's when your wife was actually over the Women and Children.
Okay, yeah.
And,
I remember that also.
Oh, yeah?
Now I do. I'm
Yeah.
remembering all this stuff now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was hot.
Yeah,
That's
but
what I
his
remember.
dad was really good about,
Yeah.
all he would say is, Whitney, if. He says, I know it ain't. He said, but if anything happens, you call me. And he, I would have, if anything, but he tried it. He tried to come here once, and stay one night. And I'm glad he did. I was really pregnant then. But I wasn't wanting to surrender everything. Am I allowed to say this?
Sure.
Okay. I actually, so except for that one moment with the Holy Spirit that I rebelled when I told you about when I was in high school, after that, I never really thought it was bad to help anybody out with a pill or anything like that. Well, I helped somebody out one time while I was in Women and Children's, and I gave it to an overnight and the cameras, and everybody found out. And I had to leave. And I understand now why, because I would be so angry, right now, if someone was to come over to the women's program and an overnight and somebody gives somebody something, I would be furious in my spirit. And it's because I know there's so many odds stacked against people that need recovery that once you get it, you don't need that.
Yeah.
You don't need nobody doing that. I guess I have to forgive myself for that. But I had to, go. And so, okay. And years later, the mission showed me grace and said, well, we'll let her in the program. And it was really, I was like, like barely skimmed in the program under Miss Kara. But she let me in. And y'all showed me grace and come back in here.
So going through the program a couple times, right? And then being here in emergency shelter a few times. And mission was a place of second chances, third chances, fourth chances sometimes, right? What was it about that last time that you came through that really made a difference in your life? What was, because you really made an impact in your life this last time that you've been through the program, because
this time?
Yeah, you're a different.
This time it's Jesus.
Yeah, you're a different person now,
you're
right?
Jesus.
Yeah.
It is absolutely.
Would you agree she's a different person this time?
Yes, 100%.
So what was it for you when you came through this last time that just, it was like that aha moment where you're like, oh man, this is what I need?
Okay. Well, when I was in jail it started, I was looking for somewhere to go. So I talked to my mom. She had said a few things. And she said one night her and my youngest son went looking for me. And there were some places out here on this street that I would not want my child and my mother pulling up at, looking for me.
Yeah.
And that touched my heart.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got to thinking, has this one seen me out there like that? And I started really getting to me. I was getting real convicted about what I was doing to my family. You know, it was a big difference because once I had hurt and missed for them, but this was totally different, you know. It wasn't shame or guilt. It was like a open awakening, not an awakening, but it was like a different light to my circumstances and my relationships and my situations. And I decided I needed to go somewhere. I couldn't go back where I was. I couldn't be that person that I was, because God forbid one of my family members, somebody, you know, is looking for me, something happens to him, or feels the need to take up for me and is in jail, or does, you know, we don't never know what could happen, you know, because they do love us no matter what the enemy wants to lead us to believe. And for me to see everybody who loves me support me now, and what he made me believe, it's crazy. It's real, but it's crazy, you know, because I'm just like, that is a lie, you know, because I can see it. But God started unfolding truth to me in a different way. And so I was going to go, I think, to Gadsden to a rehab there, and I had the bed letter, you know. And Mama said, well, she said, well, how far is it? And I said, well, my mom, you know, it's this far. And I thought, well, I could, you know, maybe he could drive because he's old enough now. And I said, maybe Mama could bring, you know, him to see me and stuff. And maybe not as much as if I was here, but I just didn't think I could be here. I just didn't think, you know, I had a couple of events happen, you know, it just, you know, it's just scary. It's dangerous and out there. And, you know, I didn't trust myself, you know, like I thought, how am I going to, yeah, right. I've been here. I mean, I'm not going to, you know, but so to answer your question, I had, my mom had spoke to Miss Kara, you know, and said, well, if she really wants it, if she wants it and reaches out to me, I might consider. And I did. And it's that things just started changing in the favor for me to be at the mission, that it was out of my control. Yeah. You know, basically, I mean, it just, doors started opening and opening. My mom picked me up. I got released December the 20th, 2023. And my mom picked me up from the jail. I sat there and waited for her. And I got out at 1, and then I got here at this parking lot at 4:30 in the morning. What got me was that God's hand is in all of it, and that I was just totally wowed, was that in this parking lot in front of Owen's house, my mom told me not to worry. She wanted to tell me something. And I thought, oh my gosh, what's horrible, something's bad, you know. She said, your son, she said, Seth got married. And I was like, you know, I was shocked, but, you know, I was really happy because that's something I prayed for him for. And then when I met Maggie, I knew that God does answer prayers. Yeah.
Seth's wife?
Yes.
Yeah.
And my mom also told me, and her dad works in this building next door right here. And I was like, God, what are you doing? You know, like, because nobody knew my thoughts. Yeah. Nobody knew that I sat in jail, and the enemy told me, oh, what if Seth is done, washed his hands of you? What if this new girl, what if her parents don't like you? What if she doesn't want Seth to come see you? And I just thought it was a girlfriend, you know. I didn't really know. I knew about Maggie, but I didn't know that they were married or anything, like I said. So he beat me up until, and what if her parents don't understand? What if they just shun you, Whitney, you know? And if I would have heard that in jail with all those
So in your mind,
lies,
you're getting beaten up all the time about these thoughts.
All of this is possibly going to happen.
Yeah.
But I want a good route anyways. All this could possibly happen, and half of me could be lost because Seth, and then I have my other son. So not all of it was lost because I had talked to, I was, had my relationship back with Carter. We were working on things, and my parents. I had yet to talk to Seth. But I knew there could be a possibility. But if it wasn't, as long as he was happy and, and good, I was good. I mean, I would have been sad.
Yeah. So you did really well in the program this time, right?
Well, I mean, it's hard. It's funny that you say that because I guess so, yeah. But that's not really what I see.
Yeah.
What I see is God just blessing my socks off left and right.
Yeah. I
see Him drawing me to Him, and I see Him pulling away a little bit, so I have to seek Him.
Yeah.
He's letting me know this is a relationship.
So it's the other times you were here, it's the same building. Some of it's the same program, some of the same people that have been here, but it was a difference in your life that it made a difference, right? I mean, there was something different this time. It was, hey, I don't want my son seeing me out in the street. Yeah. They're getting old enough now. If they won't, they might get in trouble if they come out and see me, He
can be looking for me anytime. He has a car.
But this time, it was something you were open to being more of a change of your life, right? And then once you let God into your life, then He changed it.
He did, and then He told me, Whitney, all this substance that you say are not wrong, that you're using are wrong.
Yeah.
And I'm going to show you in my word. And He did show me in His word, and it is wrong. And when I read it, His word, and the way I read it, is deeper than the substance you use. It's the reason why.
Yeah.
It's why you're doing this and how you're doing this, and but don't get me wrong, drugs will ruin anything you have, and everything you have. It's like a plague. It'll just reach through you, and it'll take everything till it has a hold of your soul.
Yeah.
And I praise God that He found me in the moment when He did, and He pulled me off of the streets. I didn't know the people I was around when He did. There's no doubt in my mind that He didn't save me. I don't know where I was going with that. I just felt compelled to say that He done that for me.
Yeah.
And that He can do that for anybody.
I find that with some people, they have to get sick and tired of being sick and tired before they end up coming and saying, you know what, God, I'm open to whatever you've got for me, right?
It's fair.
Because there's sometimes people are like, you know what, I still got this. I can do this on my own, right?
Yeah.
And then they have that slippery slope as they walk out the door, right? And then finally, I see many times where somebody's like, you know what, I've just got to give this to God. And once they give it to God, it's amazing how their lives are changed because they've opened themselves up to let God heal them and not think that they've got it on their own, right? So one thing that you mentioned is Seth's wife, and I'll just say this. She is the producer of this show. She's on the other side of the camera. So not only did her dad work here, in fact, Seth better be good in here because if not, she'll cut him out. But but not only did Maggie's dad work here, now Maggie works here, and she's one of our social media people and helps with the production of our podcast. So just say hi, Maggie. Hi. There's Maggie. Okay. So Seth, let's go back. Let's go back to Seth for a second and just find out. So Seth, your mom in 2023 comes back to the program. What did you see different?
So this is gonna be very hard to understand, but the day we came, the day we came back, I heard she was here. She had sent me a letter from jail actually, and I just never replied because when I was gonna send that letter back, and this is before she came back, I just said, I was gonna reply, but then I heard she was at the mission now. I was like, well, I might as well just go see her and tell her everything I was going to write. And I remember thinking, should I take Maggie this first time? Should I take Carter? Should it just be me? Should I bring my grandmother? I mean...
And you were already married, right, at this point? Yeah.
I was married to Maggie for about 5 months.
Yeah. You guys got married like 12 years old or something? Yeah, I mean,
right after high school.
yeah. I mean, you guys just graduate and you walk out the door and get married, right?
Exactly. That's literally how it went.
Yeah.
I love her to death. I wouldn't have changed it for nothing.
That's good.
But I brought everyone that day, and I said, Maggie's going to see my first reaction. Carter's going to see it. My grandma's going to see it. Everybody's going to be there for when I first came to see you again. I don't know how long it had been, for real. But to answer your question, it felt like I was hanging out with my mom. And I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm going to tell all y'all in this room the truth. That was the first time I'd ever felt that feeling.
Wow.
Like, oh my gosh, I got a mother. I got a mom. And Lord willing, she stays here and she does what needs to be done and follows the program here at the mission. I'm going to legit have my mom back full time.
Yeah.
But that day, I remember the feeling. It felt like I was hanging out with my mom. And I said, I just remember having this conversation with Maggie. I've told you this before. I said, you probably won't ever have a mother-in-law. And another conversation me and my dad had around 2021 was, any chance your mom finds a phone and calls you, and it may be a random number, you got to pick up, because you never know if that could be the last time. And that's just honest truth. You never know what could have happened.
Yeah.
There was a spot in my brain that said there's a possibility you could be dead. And that hurt me so bad to where I kind of got over my feelings about what had a hold on you. And I just said, I'm going to love her for who she is whenever she calls me, whatever that may be. But that was like a lot on me to have that conversation with my dad that whatever time you may call could be the last. But I remember being in the cafeteria over here, and we were all sitting at one of those round tables, and it was just like the perfect Sunday. It was just like, wow, my mom's sitting here and she met my wife. Like, how crazy is that?
Yeah.
And there's a possibility she could be back in all of our lives.
And you weren't sure a couple months before that if she was even alive, right?
No, I mean, honestly, because I knew my grandma hadn't really kept me informed, because it was just kind of like, you never know. I mean, in a nice way, you never knew what the devil was going to, what you were going to do. Yeah. I don't really know how to explain that, but
the spirit of disobedience is either if I'm wrong or right, you're either led by the Holy Spirit or the spirit of disobedience.
Right.
And it's a scary place to be.
Yeah. So when you left that day, did you have total hope, or were you like, man, I just hope she stays this time?
I did not have total hope at all.
Yeah.
I had, I don't know the word for it, but I thought there's so much potential to this. Like, you could raise Carter now. You could be in my life again. I never had a mother figure. I don't know what that's like. And it still has effects on me to this day, because I was not raised by a woman. I was raised by a man. And men have tendencies to be more straightforward, of course. That's just how men are. But,
that wouldn't be how you are now, right?
I'm very nice.
Yeah.
But it was, like I was saying, that had long effects on me. So I didn't have, total hope at that time, because I was just trying to be realistic with myself. Like, I know the patterns of my mom, and this is just temporary. But I remember I hadn't prayed in a very long time, but I chose to that night, because I said it like this, I think. I was in our little studio apartment bathroom, and Maggie knows nothing about this, but I wanted to keep this private, but I'm going to share it. I went in the bathroom and I said, Lord, if you are real, and I want to have that relationship, and I want to have that relationship with you and my mother and everyone. And, you can say that, but you also got to put in the work to get that from him. You got to, you can't just say, if you are real, but I had to put in the work for that. But I remember praying that night that I came and saw you, because I wanted this to be more than temporary. I was done with that. I said, look, I want it to be permanent, because I saw the potential in our little family dynamic at that round table.
Yeah.
My grandma was tearing up. My little brother was happy. I was happy to see my mom, who I hadn't seen in a very long time. And I was just happy the way everything had unfolded. But at that time, I didn't really have, I had the potential to have hope, if that makes sense.
So how long, as she was in the program, and you were coming to see her once in a while and that kind of thing, that you finally were like, man, I think she's got it? How long did it take?
Not long, for real.
I was going to say today.
Today, yeah, right.
Right now we're living it, Keith.
Yeah.
The podcast.
We're living it.
Maybe tomorrow. I don't know
Right
yet.
now.
I don't know yet. But I think it was like, maybe a couple weeks after that. And I was just like, she's really doing it? Because I didn't know they was going to let you in the program again. I thought you were just hanging out. You know it?
Yeah,
But,
no, I can't hang out.
And that's the best thing about the mission is the second chances. That's exactly how Jesus is.
Yeah.
Is second, third, fourth, fifth chance, because one of those chances you're going to get it. You told me that one time.
Yep.
But a month or so in, you had a cell phone so we could call, and I'd come see you frequently, and I started to realize that you was for real a different person. And I mean that out of my heart, because Jesus really worked through you for real. But you had to sacrifice a ton to do that.
My pride and my wanting to express, me wanting everybody to know how much I love them, but that I could never get it right, and just everything, and my pride, and just holding on to, I don't know, maybe making. I could make the difference, and I could be my own savior. That's not where I needed to be. But you're absolutely right. What you see is the work that Christ Jesus has done in me, and He started that in jail, in my heart, and He's put some women that I was there with me in the program.
Yeah.
And I talk to one of the girls all the time, and I say, do you remember when I'd come in your cell, and I'd be like, the Holy Spirit's convicting me about these pills I'm getting from them here, and we would just laugh about it. Like, that is the most oddest circumstance anybody would want to get right, is in the middle of a year-long sentence at jail.
Yeah.
But it just felt right. And that conviction of the Holy Spirit, it'll do it for you. But I'm happy because He's, what you see is change. Because He's healing me in here with what y'all don't hear, and what you don't see, the conversations me and Him have, and how He just makes it better.
How long have you been clean and sober now?
It'll be 3 years February.
3 years. Congratulations.
Wow.
Isn't it amazing even to say, right? That's 3 years, right?
Because I started in, like I told you, high school, except when I was pregnant with the 2 boys.
Yeah.
But then it would start right back up after that.
Yeah.
And that's like 21 years on and off. That's a long time to need something. And then it's so funny because I'll tell people what it reminds me of. I don't know how to explain it. But, and I know everybody's, someone told me, to be careful about telling people that, how it being an overnight experience for me. And he did, work on me with the medication and stuff. But as far as like the street drugs and, all the stuff that goes around here, the meth, the fentanyl, the street drugs, it was instant. And because you could have got it in jail, but I didn't. That is he did that for me overnight. So, like, I remember that movie where Forrest is just running. He said, and then I just didn't want to run anymore.
Yeah.
I was using, and then, I had that conversation with Jesus. He asked me, was I tired? I told him, yeah. A couple of days later, I'm in jail, and bam, I didn't use it anymore. He just, and it was all, he was working on the outside too, but it was a lot on the inside. And, and I'm just thankful that He stood by me for all these years, because one of the first things he reminded me of was, well, when you were in high school and I told you don't do it, you done it. And I couldn't lie to him. When you talk to God, you talk to Him. And I was like, you're right. And I knew it was Him. And I don't know, just a ton of weight just lifted from me.
The problem with addiction, though, is that it's always that, tap on your shoulder, right? That, it's right there around the corner, and, at the mission, right? I mean, it's right out on the street. And so it's got to be something that you have faith with God, because my belief is that when you have Jesus in your life, that takes that void up. It doesn't mean that you won't still crave a drug or alcohol or anything like that. But when you have him to rely on, and you don't have to rely on the drugs anymore, that's a big difference, right? It takes some of that away, right? Not all. I'm sure there's once in a while you go, I got a little bit of taste today, right? But for what happens is that if we rely on Jesus and we say, you know what, man, I'd rather just rely on that than rely on the drugs, because, boy, it's so much better. And you're even the way you look different now, right? I mean, when you came 3 years ago or 2.5 years ago, you were a different looking person than she is now. Do you agree?
Yeah, I want to comment on that, because that's very true. Because, when you was here, you started getting like how you look. It's like
That's okay. We have a tornado coming through.
Oh, no.
Just bear with us for 1 second.
Sorry.
Everybody turn off their tornado warning. So the good thing is our podcast is in this cinder-blocked area that if a tornado ever came through, we wouldn't even know.
Okay.
Yeah, we're good. Yeah, we're good. All right. So my question is, we were interrupted by a tornado warning, but my question was, when you saw your mom a couple years ago, she looks different now than she did back then, right?
Yeah. I mean, you just look healthier, and like you were. I remember seeing your mug shot. Actually, I was in lunch in high school when I looked at that. I was like, "What if she is in jail? Let me look." And you look really rough there. You were super skinny. You didn't have no hair.
No, cut it all off.
And that was probably the most shocking thing. I was like, "Who is this?"
Didn't even look like your mom anymore, did it?
No, it just looked like just crazy in a nice way.
Yeah.
So, Seth, I tell people a lot that I've worked in rescue work for over 30 years, and I've seen people come in, and then I'll see them 10 years later after they graduate our program. They go and do good things, and I'll see them at a restaurant or something. I won't remember who they are because they look so different.
Yeah.
It's not the same person that I remember Joe Schmo coming through the door, and, he was really bad on drugs and his face looked gaunt and his complexion was white, and you had the same experience with your mom over the last couple of years. She looks totally different than she did back then.
Yeah, exactly. Can you smile for the camera? She has teeth now.
Yeah.
And you didn't have teeth. You haven't had teeth in a very long time, but you have teeth, you have glasses, your hair is back and it's healthy, and your face has like the complexity of like what my mom looked like. And you wear clothes, like, not that you didn't, but you wear nice clothes now. And it's just like the way you
We're glad she wears clothes at least, right?
Yeah.
No, that's
good
right.
with me.
Yeah.
But no, like, you wear nice clothes, and just the way that you carry yourself is
Yeah.
just a completely different person.
Hmm.
Like, you have the potential to do great things. And I mean that.
Thank you.
But, yeah.
So what does it feel like when, your son's here, and he thought really at one point, he's told me before that he had lost his mom. He wasn't even sure if you were alive or if you were in prison, or what's it feel like now to have your son? He looks at you with admiration in his eyes, right? What's that feel like?
As a parent, it is different with both your children, but you love them so much.
Yeah.
With Seth, it's kind of surreal every time, because for so long, 20-something years, I've been trying to do better to get him right, trying to do, it just seems, it's like I'm in a state of shock every time I'm around him and every time I get to see him.
Yeah.
And him and Maggie, and I just try to take it in the best that I can, because I'm just overwhelmed. And I've been seeing him for over a year now.
Yeah.
Every time I'm still overwhelmed that, he's just just here. And that, I just love him. He's a good kid.
Yeah.
He's such a good-hearted soul. And I'm just so proud of him.
Yeah.
and Carter is too. I mean, I couldn't have asked for two better children, and
And Carter's how old now?
11.
11. That's right.
And I tell people all the time they're my heroes
Hmm.
because they've been through everything I've been through.
Hmm.
But they're so strong.
Yeah.
They make me be strong.
Yeah.
They make me want to do better. Now that I have Jesus, I know how to do better.
Amen.
And I'm going to continue to do better. And my spirit's kind of, whoa, when I say that, you know, because it's no. You know, it's like I'm just having, you know, God's talking to me right now as we're talking. And He's showing me things, you know. We don't, you know, boast about tomorrow. We boast in Him. I know that I'm safe and I'm good in Him.
Hmm.
And He is what keeps me. You know, Keith was talking about those moments where you might have a taste for something, or a situation may, you know, come up where you responded in a whole different, in this way that's bad, and you can't respond that way anymore, but those triggers are still there. And you're like, whoa, self.
You even quit cigarettes.
I did.
That's awesome.
I did. He didn't care. You know, I thought I was getting
Yeah.
away with something. He didn't care anymore. He
I
was
said,
like, Mom,
look, you got
whatever.
off all that other stuff. Smoke your
Smoking's
cigarettes.
nothing compared to the rest of it,
Smoking
right?
I'll buy
Yeah.
them for you.
Well,
No, it's just-
here's the, and then here comes the other sign.
Yeah.
No, Mommy.
Wow.
No. And I was like, okay. And, you know,
That's true.
yeah. And I just went to K-Tech, you know, to try to have a better future. To
That's
be
a
better
group-
provider.
Let me just tell the folks, K-Tech is a group that we partner with that is like training for people to get better jobs, right? In the tech, around Huntsville, there's a lot of tech area here, and so that's one of the things you can do, and it's a lot about electronics and that kind of stuff. And
It's hands-on, soldering,
Yep.
robotics.
but after you leave that job, you can have like a $20 an hour job compared to what it would be
Absolutely.
for. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I'm in the process of, I'm seeking a job now
Yeah.
while working for your thrift stores.
Yeah.
For your thrift store. And so we're talking about the cigarettes. I was willing to take anything out of my life, that was taken away from being able to provide. Cigarettes is one of them.
Yeah.
I went from cigarettes to the nicotine lozenges, which was costing me $40 every 2 weeks. That's
Yeah.
$80 a month. A single mother, you know, paying the bills. You know, I don't need that extra habit.
Yeah.
I don't need to be, you know, at the store trying to get some. You know, I just it's so have walked that path. It's just so, you know, it takes more out of you than you realize to have to go grab a pack of smokes or don't run out of this, or
Yeah.
it just gets anything can grab a hold of you, you know. And it's like, you know, who the sun sets free is free indeed. I could smoke a cigarette, calm down for a minute, but I'm not free.
So one of the stats that's interesting with that, we at the mission, we love for everybody to quit smoking, but we don't enforce that. We have smoking courtyards for people to go to because we'd rather you break the alcohol and drugs, and then if God impresses on your life to break the other, that's great. But the stat is that people are 50% more likely to always stay off drugs and alcohol as an addiction if they don't smoke.
I heard that too.
50% more likely. So your success rate of not going back to drugs and alcohol is even higher because you quit smoking.
Absolutely.
So Seth, let me ask you this. Pull that mic over to you. You talked about your mom and just you see joy in your eyes with your mom now. What does it feel like for you to hear her being so proud of you?
It means a lot because I never thought I'd hear that. So, I never thought I'd be sitting here with my mother somewhere like this.
Well, I just want to say, if I can, that I'm sorry, and I know that you forgive me. I thought keeping the worst of me away from you was the best. But I was always proud of you. I would always ask about you, and I would hear about your football stuff. I would hear about everything. When I could, I would come to a game. I remember I was here for, you said how many times you've been in the program. I was here for like 3 days at one time. I chose to leave that Friday and go to one of my son's last football games. Don't regret it because I wasn't ready anyways. I just, like I said, my spirit, something kept bringing me, knowing you need to be here, Whitney. You need to, something in me was gravitating me, but I didn't get to go to is a lot. But yeah, it's not, I'll tell you I'm proud of you every day. Until I can't anymore, and then I guess we'll say it in heaven, but I am, and I love you very much, and I never wanted to leave you. I just didn't want you to see the ugliest parts of me.
And all you wanted to have is a mama.
Yeah.
Right.
I hope you know the past is gone and it's dead, so
yeah,
I don't even think about none of that no more. But to answer your question, it means a lot because I know how hard you work to be able to sit here and say that, to be able to say that you're proud of me. And I know that when the devil's got a hold of you, and I've seen it firsthand, like hold of you as in anyone, is you have to sacrifice everything to Jesus to be able to let go from that.
Yeah.
And I've heard a saying that the path to hell feels like heaven, as in drugs and other things, and then the path to heaven feels like hell because of everything you got to do and hard work and determination. But I know it was hard, and I'm very proud of you also, and I love you, and I forgive all of the things that may have happened in the past.
I love you too.
So Seth, where do you see your mom going now? What are your, I'm going to ask her in a minute what her hopes and dreams are, but what are your hopes and dreams for your mom going forward?
I hope you get out of life what you haven't received yet, and that may be a stable home and a stable income and a place where you can go home every day that maybe is not the mission and maybe is somewhere you can go and be like, you can look at these walls and you can say, oh man, I'm paying for this. I'm paying the bills. And look, my son is in the other room playing the Xbox right now. And I just got off work. That's what I want for you. I just want a normal life for you. And you have yet to experience that. How crazy is that? That's what I want. And you are getting closer to that every day.
Yeah. Whitney, what are your hopes and dreams? Where do you see yourself in 10 years from now?
In my home, working and watching my kids, my daughter-in-law, and my family just growing and living.
Yeah.
And all that stuff the enemy would tear them up about with me is gone. Sharing our story to people that can help them. Telling people about Jesus and how powerful he is. And, just everything being okay. And in 10 years, a goal would be for the people I love to look at me and to never have that thought again of this person might not be here for me one day.
Yeah.
I can remember being a child saying I wanted as many kids as my house could fill because I love people. And a product of my environment, a lot of times I became who that person's seen and what that person went through. I ended up being that. And I don't ever want to be that again.
Yeah. Well, the next stage of life may be grandparent.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
No, I'm not saying anything here, but
If you
but-
ain't, I ain't.
but they got married a couple years ago, and their grandkids should be coming. And I'm just kidding. They can have grandkids whatever they want, but
I tell them do or don't, but I'm
yeah.
still gonna be here loving y'all.
We will.
Maggie's about ready to kill me on the other side right now.
Yeah, well, I
But-
can just feel it in me, like, oh my goodness, no, it just gets so strong in me that.
Yeah.
Satan better not try to get him with none of that, because Jesus has got an army he's building up in here, and that will fight for him. And it's funny, I'm doing a testimony left and right, and a few months after being at the mission, sorry.
You're okay.
A few months after being at the mission, I remember having to talk with God, and I told him I would talk and share any time I could, if that's, what it's like to be a disciple, if that's my part, And the day I graduated, I got a picture in my phone of it, but I believe it was Romans 12. It talks about how we should walk, I think, and act. And if I'm wrong on the scripture, please forgive me.
No, it's okay.
But it was so sweet, because when I read the whole thing, I thought, that's a daddy talking to his child. You graduated this program. Now go show the way that you should walk. And here's how you should.
Well, I got to somewhat interview your son a couple months back on the 11-degree day. But I was really impressed by what he had to say, and a lot of it was, just admiration for his mom, who he had kind of missed through the years, and the joy that he was sharing at that time when we were talking on the bench of having a mom that was back in his life. And just real impressed the way he articulated it. And there's a lot of families that hold grudges, or that they, and I didn't see that in Seth at all. And he just was excited to have that next step in the life with his mom that he, at one point, wasn't sure she was even alive, right? So I thought it'd be a great podcast to have today with the two of you, because you guys see we only have one mic between them. But any last words that you would have, Seth, before we shut down the podcast?
I just have some words for you, and I want to tell you that no one in your life thinks you will go back to that, because that's done. Just like I said, the past is done, and all we got is the future to look forward to. So I'm pretty emotional about that, but I'm not going to cry in front of a camera.
Okay, I do.
But I just want to
say
that
I've been crying over here, so I don't.
I'm proud of you, and I'm very thankful for the mission specifically, because without this, really, you'd have been in wherever in Alabama, like 2 hours away, and things probably would have been a little different. But nobody thinks that no more. All people see is Whitney now. They don't see the things that held you back. They just see who you could become, and that's real. I've done people wrong before, and they forgave me, and that's exactly what Jesus does every day for all of us. You just got to be willing to see it. So I want to live like that.
Seth, if there's a young guy or girl out in the audience watching today, and they have a parent that is like your mom was a few years back, what would you say to them?
I'd say that it's very hard to see it right now, but they love you for real. And they care for you. But whatever's got a hold of them, whatever it may be, is it's just hard, Like, it's going to break free eventually, but right now is the hard part. You got to stay faithful and hopeful, and just know that they love you. And any chance they talk to you, any chance, you got to just take that as, if you was in my shoes, just take it as the last.
Yeah, one of the things you said on the bench to me was, even during the hardest times, that you knew your mom still loved you. Even though there was times you weren't sure where she was, but you said to me that the drugs or the alcohol that she was involved in, that was what was taking her away from you. And it wasn't that she was doing it against you. She just was in that bad spot, but you knew she still loved you.
yeah, I feel like I had to grow up pretty quick, and I was easy to understand that it wasn't you. It was the things of this world, and usually the things of this world are no good. And like I said earlier, they just numb the pain. They don't fix it like Jesus does. I believe that in my heart.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always wanted a relationship with you, and I knew that you loved me, because no matter if you was high or wherever, at the jail, I mean, anytime we got off the phone, you always said, I love you and I miss you.
The truth.
Well, listen, this has been a wonderful time. A little bit of a family reunion, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you guys see each other a lot, but what a way to kind of culminate at this podcast where you guys shared even more than you probably thought you were going to share, right? But at the same time, hopefully there's people out there in the audience that will find something in your testimony from both of you, because it's really somebody that was once an addict and a child that grew up with an addict, that they're out there, there's hope. And that's what this podcast is about. It's about stories of hope. And your mom, Whitney, is a story of hope.
Yeah.
And, we can't wait to see the great things that God's got in store for her and for you as a family. But now to have your mom as part of that, something that you didn't know you were going to have, but now you know you have. And it's a way that God worked in your life, and it's an awesome testimony of what he can really do. So
Testimonies change lives.
that's right.
That's why I wanted to come do this. And I told her, I said, look, this is going to be hard to talk about what hurts.
Yeah.
And I knew that too. But what hurts shaped you.
Yeah. So this has been Stories of Hope. And again, appreciate Seth and Whitney being here today. And thank you so much for sharing. And again, I hope it has some kind of impact on the people that are out there. And, I don't say this very much, but if you know anybody out there that's watching this, that maybe if you've got somebody in your life that needs this, share this with them so they can see stories of hope, that really we can impact more lives, maybe even through the podcast. Or if they need some place to go, places like the Downtown Rescue Mission or other rescue missions across the country have great programs that help people who have drug and alcohol problems. So I really recommend for them to reach out to any of those as well. Again, this is Keith Overholt. I'm the president and CEO of the Downtown Rescue Mission, and this is Stories of Hope, our podcast.